Okay, hello everybody. Now, this is the second vlog on a theme, and that is the solar eclipse on the equinox, 21st of September, and the dramatic effects it's going to be having, particularly on the UK. I've looked at it in comparison to the UK chart, but now let's look at it in terms of the eclipse chart for London at the time of the eclipse on that day, because this is also very, very interesting. So what we have is Taurus rising with the eclipse, and Uranus, which is at 1 degree of Gemini, is rising in Taurus at the time of the eclipse. Now, this is very interesting because Uranus is, of course, a planet that's associated with uprisings, rebellion, frustration, things reaching fever pitch, sudden events which change the course of history, right? Very, very important. Uranus is also empowered in the first degrees of Gemini because it's ushering in a new 7-year trend. Very important as well. In this chart, the planet Jupiter is nearing the IC for the eclipse chart. Jupiter representing a kind of groundswell of public opinion, mass communications being in the third house. So we see a flurry of people gaining knowledge, increasing their knowledge, talking to other people. Jupiter on the IC represents power to the people, people rising up, people being energized, right? So that's very important in the chart. We also have in this particular chart, obviously it's eclipse, so moon conjunct sun opposite the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, right? Mercury is tied into that very, very closely. So between that, we see a tussle, two distinct sides, conflict of interests. We see a battle between two distinctly different sides. It's very divisive. People are choosing their side. What's so interesting about this eclipse chart is that the planet Pluto is on the midheaven. So look how many angular planets we have in the UK and London. We have Uranus, a powerful planet for change, on the ascendant. We have Pluto, which is dramatic, revolutionary, groundbreaking, pivotal, conjunct the midheaven. The midheaven is also the rulership of the country. Pluto conjunct the midheaven represents a change in rulership. It's the end for Keir Starmer, maybe even the end for this whole government, right? It could collapse within the next 6 months because the eclipse will set the tone for the next 6 months. Also tells me something's going on there with Prince Charles. What is concerning, however, about this eclipse chart is all these planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, all in the 6th house. The 6th house is all about digital ID and also the army. So what do we see here is a potential, right, for the army being used in some way. But we also see an escalation going on with Putin, right? So that's very interesting. Can also, as I say, it's all about management, efficiency, technology. So that is also a big theme about the old digital ID. So this is very, very, very interesting. What we also have is a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in this particular eclipse chart on the cusp of the 12th house. This is strongly indicative of subversion. So be aware of everything not being what it seems. Lots of potential false flags, psyops in order to steer the narrative. Now, I feel this comes at a pivotal time. We've had the flags going up all over the country. We've had the protests which have proliferated at migrant hotels across the country, people increasingly becoming aware politically, forming their opinions, becoming more energized. We have this week as well now the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. The story, although it happened on the 22nd of August, it kind of went viral yesterday, the story of Irina Zarutska, who was murdered on the in Charlotte on a train, and that's kind of also captured the public awareness, the imagination. It plays into a lot of the themes that are making people very angry, very restless, very distrustful of government. So that is also key. We have coming up this weekend the big rally in London, which is organized by Tommy Robinson. A lot of people have obviously mixed feelings about him and his true motives, where he gets his money from, sure, but it's also something that people will want to attend regardless of Tommy, to show their frustrations about everything that's going on in this country. The fact that the government's falling apart, the economy, they can't get a grip of mass immigration and legal, whatever immigration, right? It's all a big talking point. And then Trump comes next week. A lot of people in this country still look to Trump for inspiration and see a lot of what he's doing as positive, and perhaps him being the only person in world leadership that can speak the language of misunderstood of people who don't feel represented, right? So Trump coming is also a big deal. And then at the end of that, it's the eclipse. Right after that, we have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the Jewish New Year, after which pivotal events often happen. So there is a huge amount going on at the moment. And as I say, the economy of the UK, of course, continues to hit the wall. And Starmer had his disastrous cabinet reshuffle, which was not even organising deck chairs on the Titanic, because deck chairs have a function, whereas most of the people in his cabinet have absolutely no function at all. We have a battle for who's going to take Angela Rayner's position, but I feel, as I've mentioned, please watch the other vlog on the UK, that Angela Rayner will be plotting in the background. So what do I think of it all? Well, I'd say the protests have been very, very positive. A lot of people will say, oh, well, they do nothing, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but if you watch them, you will have seen that the people at them have had a huge evolution in terms of their political awareness. They're going down all the right rabbit holes. So people aren't just protesting and missing the point and thinking protest is the be-all and end-all. People are aware that protest is but a very, very small beginning and small part of the whole thing. They don't see Farage as a solution either, but they do see that they are beginning to talk to each other, which is why I feel physical protests, peaceful, have a role, because at least people are talking in real life, forming communities, rather than talking online with increasing censorship. And while there can always be infiltration, I think the more protests there are, the more difficult it is to infiltrate all of them. And people in Britain have a strong psychic sense. I think they can see through the instigators and work it out. So it's great that people are getting to know people, exchanging ideas, and becoming a lot more aware of the multiple issues we face. Now, I do feel that some people hit a wall with the digital ID. They tend to think, yes, it's all about digital ID, and then they go down that rabbit hole, and then they kind of give up and start fighting because they think they've figured it out, that it's just about digital ID, and it sort of shuts people up. But I think it's way, way, way more than that. That's just a small part of a massive redistribution of wealth, a cultural revolution that we're going through. Please watch the other video I did where I talked about how this relates to kind of other things, particularly Mao's cultural revolution. Okay, I do feel the people on the left are coming up with this narrative all the time. Well, blame the billionaires. And their narrative is that the problem is that billionaires don't pay enough tax, and that's why people resent illegal immigrants. And if the billionaires paid enough tax, then there'd be enough to house all the illegal immigrants, or legal or whatever they are, and still cater for people who are already here in terms of housing, NHS, access to services, and there'd be no resentment and no problem. So that's the narrative of the West. But I mean, I don't even think taxing all the billionaires, we can afford to take everyone in the world. So, but anyway, but why I feel that this is disingenuous and a totally fraudulent argument is you'll never, ever, ever see these same people who turn up to counter-protest going down to Downing Street when Larry Fink or Bill Gates are here to have secret meetings with Keir Starmer, the minutes of which aren't available even by freedom of information requests. You'll never see them protesting that. They never question the power that these billionaires, most of them who don't even live in the UK, exercise over this government. You also will never see them protesting people like Richard Branson or Michael O'Leary, and I'm sure they all fly Virgin Atlantic and Ryanair. You'll never see them down Heathrow at the Virgin check-in desk with banners saying, tax Branson, save refugees, or, Branson is a fascist dictator, far-right, blah, blah. You'll never see them going up against any of these billionaires. So I do not believe their narrative that they are blaming the billionaires, because they are always just there attacking ordinary concerned mothers and citizens concerned about their children's future and calling them vicious names and slurs. They're not ever attacking billionaires. The other problem I have with this argument is, even if you take money away from billionaires, for example, one of these leftists was saying that no one needs $1 billion. Well, yeah, but if you get into a Zimbabwe situation, $1 billion's not that much, so who's to say? But anyway, they say no one needs $1 billion. Well, most people would get on board with that. But if you take the excess billions off the billionaires, these billions don't go over to angels who fairly and equitably distribute the billions for the benefit of humanity, do they? No. The billions will be taken by government, which as an entity is the most corrupt, dysfunctional, boneheaded, and totally lacking in any moral fabric. So what's the use of government having control of these billions? They will merely squander it, give it to cronies, spend it on more weapons of war to kill people, and do things with it that'll be an utter disaster. For example, more net zero projects and wind turbines to deface